Nathan, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you very much for having me on.
No worries. How has martial arts changed your perspective on life?
Okay, starting with a deep question there. How has martial arts changed my perspective on life? I would say, so a few takeaways from martial arts. I think that it's doing something hard every day. So it's teaching you that discipline, it's teaching you to get out of your comfort zone. Um, Especially mixed martial arts, the format of professional mixed martial arts is teaching you delayed gratification. So rather than constantly seeking quick dopamine hits and drinking at the weekend and short term highs, I've been chasing long term goals for the last few years. So I feel like, in terms of my reward system, it's very different from your average person because I'm very good at delaying what I want now for what I want even more in the future. I think that's a big impact that martial arts has had. I think just like confidence day to day. I think being physically capable is always a good skill to have. So obviously, I suppose you could say like growing up, I was quite a small kid, so violence was always like a bit of a threat to me. And then that is maybe what led me down the path of wanting to train combat sports and martial arts to learn how to defend myself. So I never had those feelings of like anxiety in a physical altercation. So that's another way it's changed my life. And now it pretty much consumes like every waking moment. I'm training twice a day, three times a day. So it is like pretty much all occupies my time.
You said about delayed gratification there. I was speaking to Shay Ingram last night,
Oh yeah.
and he mentioned that a little bit, and we got into quite an interesting conversation about like sacrifice. And you mentioned about like going out drinking at the weekends, and some people talk about sacrifice as like I'm sacrificing, like you said, what I want now for something that I want in the future. But then if you think about the people that are going out and doing the thing that they want now, they're also sacrificing something, right? They're also sacrificing something greater in the sense of like you're going to achieve your goals and have a life that you enjoy living versus them who are going to be maybe a little bit satisfied, but they're always going to wonder like what if I really tried.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of my biggest fears is the what if. I would never ever quit on myself because I know for a fact when this is all said and done, more than anything, what I want is to look back and know that I gave it my all. I don't really care. Obviously, I want the storybook ending. I want to become a UFC champion. I want all the money. I want all the belts, all the fame, etc. that comes with it. But the main thing, what I'm chasing, is sort of self validation and like seeing how much I can give and how much I can get out of this sport. I think that in terms of like getting results as well, I know how capable I am. Like deep down, I think we all know what we can achieve, and maybe that scares us a little bit, and people aren't willing to put in the work to get there. But I've seen for myself what I can have. I've had a glimpse of it with my stint in the UFC there. So yeah, that would be one of my biggest motivators. Probably is not wanting to feel that regret of and the sacrifice of what I do want just to take the easy road out now. That always terrifies me. So I'm very much willing to sacrifice all these small little things, like having a drink with my mates, like going out and eating food, like skipping a training session and staying in bed. I'll sacrifice all of that because the bigger picture is I don't want to sacrifice that end goal when it's all said and done. I want to know I gave it 100%.
Hmm. You said about like sort of chasing self validation and scared to not go for it. Where does that come from? Like in terms of I don't know. Is there a specific reason like why you chose to not cower away from the scary option?
I mean, that is it's interesting. The probably is you could do a deep dive into the psychology of anybody trying to achieve great things. I think obviously there's a little bit of ego involved. I think highly of myself, so I want to live a life that is other people look at within high regard. I don't really know where it stems from. I was never necessarily bullied as a kid. I don't feel like I didn't receive any love and affection from my parents. I can't really pinpoint something in my upbringing that maybe made me chase this like self validation.
Mm.
Um, could just be, I don't know, genetic. Maybe I was born with it, the desire to want to achieve things. Maybe it's my ego. Do you know what I mean? There's definitely a few things that it could be. I'm not really sure, but I do know that I have it, and I know that if I do ever slack off or I catch myself not giving it my all, it eats me up inside. And like I'll be the type of person who will do a full day of training, do multiple sessions, and still be sat there thinking, did I really put it in? Could I have given a little bit more? Maybe I should go and do another run. Maybe I should be stretching now. There's always more to be done. So yeah.
Something that fascinates me about like I've done, so this will be my 32nd podcast when this one goes out. I've posted 30. This will be my 32nd, and the amount of people like yourself who I've spoken to, you all say the same sort of things in like in terms of what you're talking about there. Of like, there's always more to do. There's always something else that I can be doing, and it's a I don't know. It's an interesting thing of like that's a great thing to have, obviously, in terms of that's going to make you successful. But do you ever feel like that mentally gets to you?
Um, yeah, I think it could, but I also think that that's the price of winning. I think that if you are choosing to be like, if you want to be a successful athlete, that's the mindset you've got to have. And that like, there was a book, and I would love to say that I read it all, but I didn't. I like flicked through it, and I've heard other people speak about it called Winning, and I think it's by a guy called Tim Grover, and he was like a sports psychologist. He worked with Michael Jordan. There's a lot of references to him in the book, and it basically talks about the other side of winning. Like everyone sees the glory, the success, the money, the accolades of being a successful sports person, but the other side of it is the sacrifice, the always wanting to do more, and like the fleeting feeling you get from a win. It feels so amazing, and that's what we're chasing. And then all of a sudden it's gone, and you're chasing the next goal and the next goal. It never really fully satisfies you. So I think that there's an opportunity cost with it. Like obviously, I know in the long run this is what fulfills me, but I'm also aware that there's going to come a point in my life when I can't be this competitive and I can't continue to live my life chasing this glory. There is going to have to come a time when I choose to retire from fighting, when I need to kind of switch my mindset in order to live a more fulfilled human experience, but living the athlete experience. I think I need to have this mindset in order to be successful, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. About half an hour or so before we did this podcast, I was listening to, you know who Chris Williamson is?
Yeah.
He was talking about his goal for, it was either this year or last year. I can't remember how old this podcast was, but he was talking about his goal is to become a little bit more relaxed day to day and enjoy, like you say, just day to day life. Because I don't know, we can all get caught up in whatever we're doing, whether it's fighting or start building a business, literally anything you're doing. We can all get caught up, can't we, in that thing of like just never feeling enough and always. I mean, I say we all feel like that, but I don't know. Some people maybe don't have enough of that, and maybe they won't be as successful in something. But yeah, like I can imagine. I've never been a professional athlete, so I don't know in terms of that aspect. But I can imagine it can be a bit mentally draining to be like, oh fuck, I'm never feeling that satisfaction you're talking about, even after a win. You know, like
Yeah. Do you know
yeah,
what's funny? This made me think. I was talking to somebody the other day. Have you heard the story about the Mexican fisherman with
I
the
don't think
American
so. No.
businessman who visits him? So I'm going to butcher this, but I'll tell you the story. And it's basically about a Mexican fisherman who spends his days. He goes out at sea, catches a few fish enough to feed his family, and he comes home. They cook a nice meal together. They sit, enjoy family time. One day, an American businessman visits him and says, whoa, like you could have a really successful fishing business here. You're doing it all wrong. We need to rent another ship, send out a bigger crew, and we could catch more fish. And the fisherman says to him, like, well, what's the point in that? And he's like, well, we could sell all those fish, and with the money, we could buy more ships, and we could fish even more, and we could set up an international business selling fish all over the world. And he's like, well, why would I want to do that? And he goes, well, then you could get shareholders and you could create a global business. You could free up a load of your time and the business would basically run itself. And you could do what you enjoy, which is fish, spend some time with your family, cook and chill. And he basically, in a roundabout way, says all this ambition brings you back to the same point as he's doing what he wants to do anyway. Do you know what I mean? So I feel
Mm.
like that is one side of my brain that's thinking, oh, why have I got all this drive and ambition? Just be with the people I love, enjoy day to day small things, living, being a human, being with your friends and family. But then, in the same breath, I'm like, on the other hand, though, I've got all this drive to want to achieve all these things, to eventually be rich and retire and chill with my friends and family. Do you know what I mean? So it's like a catch-22. But yeah, I don't know why I felt like telling you that story, but it's because of
Yeah.
the drive and ambition versus just being content with your day to day. I also think that is like a journey you've got to go on. I think you've got to do these things, be ambitious, work hard, be fully indulged in something to then practice being separate from it and having that detachment where you can still give your all and do your work, do your duty as a human, and then at the same time you realise none of this matters. It's like a yin and yang type thing. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you have to do the thing sometimes to realize that it's not all that, in a sense of like, maybe not competition, but like to realize maybe I don't need that to be a worth enough, worthy of love and self worth,
But you have
Um,
to go on the journey in the first place to come to that conclusion.
yeah, yeah. So it's one of those weird ones, isn't it? But yeah, that story is quite cool. I've popped that in my notes to have a little look at that as
Well,
well.
search it up, and the people on YouTube tell it a lot better than how I told it. But I got the gist of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. It's that little loop where you just end up where you started. That is,
It might have been Chris Williamson actually where I heard that. Funny enough.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so what do you think stops people from, obviously, to get to the level you've got to even just become a professional fighter, let alone make it to the UFC? Like, you have to have an element of like being willing to chase your dreams. Or that's kind of exactly what being a competitive mixed martial artist is, right? What do you think stops people from chasing a dream? It doesn't just have to be competition related or MMA related, but anything. Like, what do you think are, and what have you seen to be the roadblocks for people chasing a dream?
I think it's probably just the stories that they tell themselves. I think that I convinced myself from a very young age that I was going to be able to do this, and I think that my upbringing helped with that because my mum and dad always told me I could do whatever I wanted. They weren't very strict parents in that sense. I wasn't told like you've got to do this route, you've got to get a traditional job, you've got to go to uni, blah 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 blah. They were very relaxed and they always let us play whatever sports we wanted to do. They never held us back from anything, and I've got to thank my parents for that. They definitely instilled in me a lot of confidence when I was a kid, and then that just was the story I told myself. And when I started doing martial arts, which was only in a small gym in Southport, I wasn't even at Next Generation, which obviously now is a world-renowned gym. I was at a small gym in Southport, and I was telling people in school in like year 9, "Oh, I'm going to be a UFC fighter. I'm going to fight in the UFC." And like they're probably looking at me thinking, "What even is the UFC? This kid's clueless." But I was convinced from day one, and I think that that is the biggest thing: is the self belief and the story that you tell yourself. It's easy to look out and compare to other people and just be realistic and think I'm never going to be able to achieve that. But really, it's small steps you take along the way, and it becomes more and more realistic. And I just believed from the get go I was going to be able to tick off all those steps. So the most important thing is the story you tell yourself, and then obviously along the way, losses can deter people. Inactivity, not being able. There's a lot of other factors then along the career of being a professional. Injuries, opponents pulling out on you, not getting matched. There's so many variables. Not earning loads of money at the start. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean? So it's like there's a lot of things that can then put people off, and they'd be like, I'm just gonna go and get a regular job. Fuck this. But I think keeping that passion and love for the sport along the whole way is also very important because then you're willing to go through those hard times, go through the injuries, go through the opponent pullouts. Oh, I didn't get a match for that shot. It's okay. Stay focused and believe in it, and your shot will come.
I think, even though you were saying there's a lot of other factors that come in, I think the point you initially made about the story that you tell yourself is kind of like the, say you get an injury, the comeback is just the story that you tell yourself, right? I spoke to Modestus Bukauskas over the weekend, and like most people know his story of what happened there. And the thing that stood out to me was what he was talking about is what you're talking about as well, was just the story he was telling himself to come back.
Yeah.
If he fed himself a negative story, he would have never got back to the UFC. But that's not what happened, and
Mm-hmm.
he managed to get back. And yeah, those other outside factors can play a role, but I think a lot of it is the story that you tell yourself. Like, uh, I worked in a Weatherspoons, and a lot of people there, the story that they were telling themselves was, "This is all I'm really worth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can never be more than this." And I was like, "What? What is your passion? Like, what do you want to do? Like, what can you do to make yourself worth more than this place? Like, And I think that is a really good point that you made there, actually, about just the story that you tell yourself is how like that's going to get you to where you want to be or keep you where you are.
Well, it's everything, isn't it? That is realistically, we're creating. Obviously, people think it's all wishy-washy, sort of crazy stuff. But I believe you're creating the life that you experience in your mind. Like everything you, not necessarily in the sense like, oh, visualize it, see it, achieve it, all this nonsense. But like, essentially, your perspective is everything. Like what happens to us, we process it all in our brain, and the story we tell ourselves is the reality that we're living. So Modestus is someone I take big inspiration from. Jordan Vucenic on the same journey as me now, trying to get back to the UFC. Reece McKee, Mason Jones, old Brandon Moreno. These are all these guys I've looked at who have been in the same position I've been put in. And Modestus arguably was even worse. He was coming off nearly a career-ended injury, you could say, and then he gets cut. It's like the worst possible scenario. He could easily have felt sorry for himself and gone, that's it, I had a go, I got there, didn't quite make it, you know what I mean? But he didn't. He told himself the story of how great is this going to be when I come back. And that's the approach I'm taking. I feel like live your life in a way where you're writing a book about it. You know what I mean? You can have an autobiography. This, for me now, is a great chapter of where it looks like I'm down and out. I've been cut from the UFC. It didn't go the way I wanted it to go. But I'm going to turn it around and create an even better story rather than just, oh, he got there, he was dead successful, he won the title, he never lost. Who's interested in that? You want to see the underdog. You want to see people go through hardship and show resilience and come back. And that is exactly what I intend to do. And I take a lot of inspiration from others who have done that throughout sports, especially obviously MMA, because I can resonate with it more. So yeah, keep telling yourself a positive story, and I think it'll all work out for you.
I think it's also that thing of who you surround yourself with. Like, I came up to Next Gen, I filmed some content with Chris, Crazy Chris.
Oh yeah.
And like when I came up there, it's just like the vibe at the place is just like everyone's so like it feels like a real team of people, and everyone seems really positive. Whereas if you're surrounding yourself with people that are like just fucking moaning and down and everything is a complaint and their life is always, oh, it's his fault, it's her fault, like that, if you surround yourself with that, that's how you're going to think. Whereas if you surround yourself with positive people, it's a really simple thing, but makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, it's infectious, isn't it? People's energy rubs off on you, and if you're always in like a negative environment, everybody's complaining, pointing the fingers, you are going to become like that yourself. So that's also true. I think that's a secret we've got. And also, momentum builds more momentum. Like you see the success of everybody else in the gym, that uplifts everyone from the amateurs and the teens right the way up to the pro fighters. We're all feeling the boost off everybody else doing well, and it is, again, very cliche, very cringy, but iron sharpens iron. That's what you're around great, successful people. You can only rise up yourself. It's sink or swim. If you're not going to be on the same wavelength, in the same mood, experiencing all these highs, then you sink or swim. You're gonna get left behind, and the whole team's like risen up together, and that's why we're as successful as we are today as a gym.
How long have you been at Next Gen for?
Well, I think maybe 10 years now. I think maybe just over. I had my first amateur fight out of the gym a few months into starting here because, like I said, I'd done a bit of martial arts at a gym in Southport called the Dog Pit, and I'd done bits of freestyle wrestling. I'd done bits of boxing. I was doing the sport at what I thought was like a high level, and then I come to the gym and realised that, okay, this is where I need to be training. And that was 2016, and then I had my first amateur fight a few months into being there, and now we're 10 years deep. It's 2026.
Yeah. I mean the level of Next Gen. When I came up, I was watching some sparring just before I filmed some stuff with Chris, and I was watching some of the kids spar like on the far corner of the mat, and I was like, holy fuck, like these are probably like 16-year-old kids or something.
Yeah.
And the level is ridiculous. And then you look over to the other side of the mat and you've got Luke Riley, Paddy, and that particular day I was watching it and I was like, what the level here is ridiculous. It's hard to explain to people who have never sort of seen that level in person. But yeah, can you talk a little bit about that and how the gym feels in that sense?
Yeah, do you don't really, obviously, I know every day is a hard day, every round's hard, there's no easy partners in here, but you don't really notice it until you go to other places and you train at other gyms and you have so much success and you're like, oh, the guys in Next Gen really are world level. recently I went over to Vegas with Paddy for his fight, and I was training in Syndicate, which to me is like a big. They got loads of UFC fighters. Marab trains there. Like it's in Vegas, the mecca of fighting, and level wise, I was like next gen's on par, if not better than this gym. Do you know what I mean? Not all respectfully, obviously Syndicate was a great gym and I enjoyed, and I had a lot of good training partners there, mixed it in with loads of guys, but it really showed me that is considered one of the best gyms in the world, I would say. They've got a lot of UFC guys, they've got champions, and I feel like we're onto everything in next gen. The level is the same, the training partners are the same, the skill and technique sessions that we're doing, I believe, is even more advanced than anywhere else I've been. But because you're around it all the time, I'm very lucky that it's down the road from mine. Like I found this gym 10 years ago when we were just building. Now you get people travelling from all over Europe to come and to mix it up with us. And this is just like my home local gym. But it was a real like sort of eye opener when I do go to other places and I see like, okay, yeah, we know what we're doing.
It does make me sort of have a lot more respect for those people who don't train at gyms like that, but still manage to make it to the highest levels. You know, like there is the odd outlier who don't train at a gym on the level of next gen or even near that, and they're kind of like sort of almost doing it on their own in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me have a lot more respect for those people because, like, I don't know, I just think it's such an important part of making it to the highest level.
It is, and I think I would say there's two sides of it. There's like having that where you're the main man in the gym. It's a pretty small gym. You're getting a lot of coaches' attention there. You're getting like pretty much the whole gym is devised around getting you to where you want to be. Then you have those mega gyms like ATT, like you could say Syndicate, you could say AKA, these big super camps, Tiger Muay Thai, blah blah blah, where it's pretty much everyone's elite in there, but you're not going to get that much one-to-one coach attention. It's going to be just all classes and like iron sharpens iron. You're getting good off the level of the guys on the mat. I feel like next gen is a good combination of where we're not huge, but we're a good size and we've got a lot of elite fighters at each weight class. So you're getting that constant improvement from having high level training partners and just like battling it out. But then also we're not that big of a gym, so you can get the one-to-one attention off the coaches and you get a lot more individual, like tailored to you training versus where you would at like a big ATT or something like that. But at the same time, it's not just like the gym where you're the main man, and so like you've not got the training partners. I feel like we're a nice happy medium, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, for sure. I want to talk a little bit about like some training specific, not in terms of like what you're specifically working on, but in terms of, have you seen this whole argument of like, I think they call it the ecological approach of training? Have you seen this?
Yeah, I more of a jiu-jitsu thing, isn't it? But yeah.
Yeah. What does training at next gen consist of in terms of the class makeup? How much pure technique, like drilling stuff, is there versus live work?
It's a good balance. We have actually gone a lot more down the ecological route at the minute. Paul really likes it, and I like it as well. I feel like we started off doing it in all the jiu-jitsu classes, and now it's kind of worked its way into MMA games. So we're playing specific scenarios out where I've got a task that I need to do, and my opponent's got a task, and kind of just playing it out from there and seeing what comes up. We do a good mix. There's a bit of that, and then there's a bit of like, okay, we're going to drill, because I think at the same time you need to do some drilling of techniques. I don't know. I am going more eco. I feel like ecological games are probably the way to go, to be honest. But I think that maybe there's a place for doing that, seeing what comes up in the positions, and then okay, here's a specific technique in there which might help you and now look for this a bit more in the game, and then. Do you know what I mean? So like kind of breaking it up into starting with the games, coming stuck at a position and working on a technique there, and then trying to implement that back in. But I also think for why the games are so good is because a lot of the times when you drill, it's hard to drill with like real resistance, like you would get in a live field. Whereas when you're doing a game, you're both trying to win a certain battle. So you're going to get that feel of like, okay, how does this work against a live partner who's trying to counter me?
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a good mix. I like the games. I like the ecological games.
Yeah. I think the conclusion I've came to is about a 70-30 or 80-20 split in like more in favor of the games. So like the 70 being the games and the 30 being a little bit of technical work, because like, for example, I had a we were doing some games based around an arm in guillotine, and all of a sudden I realized after 6, 7 years of training, I had no fucking clue how to finish an arm in guillotine, which was quite embarrassing.
Yeah.
But it was just not a variation of a guillotine that I ever go for, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And in this game, I just had no clue how to finish this arm in guillotine. So I was like, oh, there is a point where I could do with a little bit of, okay, this is a drill that you can work on and a little bit of technical things to help you with the guillotine to then move back into the game. And then that game has more benefit to me.
Yeah.
So I think a little split of 70-30, 80-20 is about the conclusion I've came to, in my opinion.
Yeah. Do you know what? Like, literally, same thing happened with me. I was rolling with one of my mates, Keith Fletcher, and he's a black belt as well. We were playing some front headlock games with each other, and the first one was just control, and then we were doing you can only anaconda, and we added in some more submissions later on. And he just showed me a little detail afterwards because he kept finishing me with the anaconda, and I couldn't get in with it. And then he showed me a detail, and I swear to God, since that one session going over that with him, I've been anaconda in everyone. I feel like my anacondas have come back and like they're super sharp at the minute. Probably shouldn't have said that because I might anaconda this next kid in the fight. But anyway, yeah, that was just based off playing the game, feeling the position, and being like, I'm struggling to finish this. I feel like I've not quite got it right. He gave me a little pointer on my positioning, and then before you know it, I was catching in with the anaconda right after. So.
Yeah, and I think that's like I think people get really caught up in these trends of like, oh, we have to only do this and that nothing else. But I think there is always a good balance to, you know, if you're doing 90% of your training of just drilling against compliant opponents, then yeah, it's probably not going to be the right way to do it.
Yeah.
But I think a good blend of both is where I'm sort of coming down to anyway, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you, definitely.
What is something most people don't know about being an MMA fighter that maybe you wish they did?
What is something people don't know? I'm trying to say that it's not really obvious. It's hard to say not the obvious things, but I would just say like it really is. So let's say you fight 3 times a year. That's quite an active year. Mm-hmm. It looks great on the outside. People see all the winning, all the victory. You're getting your hand raised, the Instagram posts, the comments, the likes, whatever. And that's 3 moments in a year if you're lucky, if you win all your fights. And then if you don't, it's a lot of time in between not really feeling validated and not getting that sort of what you've been looking for, what you've been training for. So it can be a hard life. Do you know what I mean? It can be really difficult to still keep going after losses, after setbacks, chasing that thing that only lasts a short while anyway. And then you haven't experienced that for a while. Like for me, besides the Kalen fight, which I thought I did win, but I didn't get the external validation from it. I got a bit of internal because I watched it back and I was like, I beat him. But before that, it's September 2024. That was the last time I got my hand raised. The last time I felt that thrill of victory was a year and a half ago. So that's like 18 months of me chasing this thing. And it's like still not satisfied because I've not had it again since. And that can be quite difficult. So it's a lot of like, I suppose what you've got to then do as a fighter is try to learn to enjoy the day-to-day, enjoy the journey, enjoy the training sessions, enjoy putting your body through it, enjoy the diet, enjoy the weight cut, enjoy every aspect of it, because these moments that you get, which you really are chasing, they're so far and few between. So it's like, that's what it looks like to be an MMA fighter. Win, get your hand raised, yeah, get loads of dough, you're famous, you're cool. But in reality, it's every single day, it's just waking up and trying to get better and battling in your head and trying to beat that voice that's saying you can't do it. Yeah, that's just like a day-to-day grind and learning to love that and enjoy that, and that is what your life is. So get used to that, I would say.
Yeah.
I sounded a bit morbid, but
no. Well, I guess in a way it comes back to that thing of what you was talking about with the like Mexican fisherman thing, right? Where like, why did you fight? Oh, because I love it. And then like, well, you probably, I guess you like start training because you love training, right? But then you train for a fight and you're focused on that, and then it's like, well, we won that fight. What are we going to do next? So we're going to go back to training. Like, just learning to enjoy enjoy the actual day to day, and then using, I guess, the fight as a bit of a high instead of the thing that your sort of whole life is focused on. But I then guess the flip side of that is being I'm fully talking to myself at this point,
No, it's
but
okay.
I
I'm
then
with you.
guess
I'm following along.
the flip side of that is like being a professional fighter. You kind of have to have that thing of like the fight is it has to be the main focus, right? Because if not, well, you're going in against someone who that probably is their main focus.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting. It's like Nate Diaz. Was it Nick Diaz or Nate Diaz? One of them said like you got to love it so much that you end up hating it. And then, like you do, you go through so many stages of it's just a constant journey, lad. But obviously, yeah, it's like paradoxical because that is the only thing that matters to me is winning those fights. But then at the same time, it's like that's not got to be my focus. My focus has got to be on enjoying the day to day because this is my life. Doing these training sessions, doing these fight camps. This is 99% of my time, and that is 1% of my time. Do you know what I mean? Like it's very, very few times a year I get to get in there and compete. This is the bulk of being an MMA fighter, is this day-to-day life. But then at the same time, the competition, the winning, that is the most important thing also. So it's like balancing it. But I think as well, what you can do is you just, around competition time, you lock into that. And then after a fight, you realise, you go back to, I enjoy training in camp anyway, but I suppose you can focus more on, okay, I'm just doing this because I love it. And then as it gets closer and closer to a fight, you dial in on, okay, this is what I need to do specifically to win this fight. That's the most important thing. And then when that's won, you can go back to just enjoying, experimenting, playing around with your training. But yeah, you really made me think this interview, lad. I'm very like, I don't know, I feel like we've got into it all. The psychology of it's good.
This is why I started the podcast, because I was fed up of sort of listening to how is training camp going, like what are you working on for this one, and I was kind of thinking like, well, surely the fighters must get bored of those fucking questions as well, right?
Yeah.
You know,
That's what
like
I was expecting to go. I thought I was going to come on and be like, "Oh, it's camp. Yeah, camp's great, mate. Camp's great."
yeah. So I was like, oh, I think there's a little niche thing where I can start rambling and get something more out of these guys, because anyone who makes it to a high level of anything has to have some kind of level of deeper thinking to them. Is at least how I think about it. So I'm like, how can I get that out of someone? Is my sort of focus when I get someone on a podcast, you know.
I like it. No, I've enjoyed it. I enjoy speaking to you. It's good. It's making me think.
All right. How much more time do you have, by the way? I don't want to.
I'm pretty good. I've got my eye test at 3:00 this afternoon, so I don't know what time we're on now, but I don't think it's anywhere near 3. So
yeah, it's 1:15. So
okay.
I just remember you saying you had some kind of time restraint, so I didn't want to overrun. I've got a few more questions though, and then you will be free. So don't sweat too much, mate.
Cool, bro. Fire away. I'm enjoying it. Don't worry.
Can you tell me about the first time you competed? Because first time I competed was fucking atrocious, and I saw a photo of it the other day. I had one coach one side of me, one coach the other, and I was just looking off into the distance like, what the fuck's going on? Can you tell me about the story of the first time you competed?
The first time I competed in MMA was 2016. I was fighting on a show called Ice FC against a guy called Sam O'Connor, and I think I was 18. Hang on a minute, that's not right. I'd have been. Oh no, yeah, I was 18 years old. Yeah, and he was 27. So he was like full grown man, and I was just like a teenager essentially. And I was like quite a late developer as well. I feel like, so I was actually a skinny teenager. First MMA fight. I'd done bits of wrestling before. I competed in wrestling, and that was about it. And I remember feeling like serious adrenaline for the first time, and like it felt like I was almost in a dream. Nothing felt real. Like when I walked out into the cage and like the lights were all on me, it felt like I was in a video game or something. It was really hard to. I'd never felt that before. This moment, straight away in the fight, come out, and he was like he had a Thai boxing background. This guy, he actually had Owen Roddy in his corner as well. He was Conor McGregor's pad man. So at the time, I was like, and this was around 2016. Yeah. So I was like, oh my god, that's Conor McGregor's coach. Like, shit, I'm fighting against someone from Conor McGregor's gym.
Was this guy from SPG? Was he?
He was from SPG Charlestown, which was Owen's gym. Yeah, it wasn't actually the SPG where Conor trained, but obviously Owen is Conor's pad man, and he has that gym. So came out straight away and head kicked me in like the first exchange. Very bad. I'd like sparred competitively, but I'd never been in a fight, and I was like, oh shit, this is real now. Like, I'm getting shit into the dome. I ended up reverting back to what I knew and just wrestled for three-minute rounds. Just shot at the kid. Like, didn't throw any strikes, I don't think, in that fight. I just come out with my hands high, shot a double leg, controlled him, got to his back, and I won a very, very boring decision. But still, when he raised my hand, I was like, you know what I mean? I felt like the man. I felt like such an exhilarating feeling. And yeah, it was like a drug then. That was like my first taste of it was unreal. From even walking out, getting in the cage, the nerves, like the level of adrenaline. Like, I've never felt that again since, because obviously the more you do it, the more you become a little bit numb to that feeling of fighting. Whereas now it's like, you still get adrenaline, obviously, but I'm very used to that feeling. So it's a lot different to what it was then. That first time really was like I was on drugs. It was crazy.
Do you feel like you can handle or sort of be a little bit more calm and composed when you compete now versus that first time?
Yeah, million%. If I couldn't, I'd probably be in the wrong game if I hadn't learned to sort of control the nerves a little bit more. Yeah, I definitely feel like I've got a better idea on how to deal with it. Although every fight does feel different still. Like, you still have some days when you get in the back and you're like, I feel weird here today, or some days you feel amazing. And then I've had days where I felt amazing and lost. I always actually remember my first professional loss was against Dominic Wooding, and for the Cage Warriors title. So I was 23 at the time, and I literally felt invincible in that warm up. I was like kicking the pads, I was wrestling with my coaches. I felt like no man alive could beat me. That was the best I've ever felt going into a fight, and then that was the first time I ever lost, which is crazy.
That's quite funny, isn't it?
Is what?
That's quite funny that, like, well, not funny that you lost, but I mean funny how, like, it's the best you ever felt, but then you lose.
I know, it's crazy. So that's what you learn, not to put too much emphasis on that, because I've had times in the back where I felt really nervous and not very good and felt a bit slow, and sometimes the nerves can make you feel a little bit heavy and your feet aren't quite moving well and your legs feel heavy, and then I've gone and had great performances and won in the first round. So, but all of that is experience, do you know what I mean? All of that is, okay, I know how to deal with it now. And a lot of being in the back and dealing with nerves just comes to, again, the conversation you're telling yourself in your head. You can easily be like, oh shit, why am I here? Like, I'm going to get knocked out. I don't want to go and fight. I'm in front of all my friends and family. I'm shitting myself. Or you can be like, this is great. This is what I've trained for. I want to be here. I chose to be here. No one's forcing me to do this. What a great life that I get to go and do this now. What a great opportunity to show all my hard work. I'm ready. This guy doesn't stand a chance. He's in the other changing room, having the exact same conversation in his head. Do you know what I mean? But I'm telling myself he's losing the battle in his mind. I'm winning the battle in mine. I'm going to go and beat him.
And I guess, like, it doesn't really matter whether he is winning or losing the battle in his mind, because it's how you're thinking of it. Of like, I'm just thinking internally instead of, I don't actually give a fuck of what he's thinking. Mm-hmm. I need to control what I'm thinking.
Yeah, 100%. Again, it's a story you're telling yourself.
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things that martial arts has given me, and many of, like, pretty much all my friends do martial arts. I don't really hang out with many other people. Is that, like, thing of, don't really pay too much attention to how you're feeling, and it just transfers over so well into life as well. Like, you know, it's stupid little things like you don't want to fucking do your laundry, but you have to, you know, so you just fucking crack on and you do it, and you don't sit and dwell on it too much. And I know it sounds so trivial and so stupid, but those little wins can just stack up, and that's how you actually end up achieving the big things, you know. And I think that for me, that's one of the biggest things martial arts has given me, for sure.
Definitely. Just focus on what you can do next as well, just the next step. Even doing your laundry, something like, I've had times in my life when, like, I'll put it down to, I'm just training dead hard. But really, you bury your head in the sand, you put all your energy into the gym, and you come back, your room's a mess. You've not done any of your laundry. You haven't really been nice to your girlfriend or your friend. And it's like, okay, I'm kind of making excuses now for it because I don't want to do it. But like you said, it is little things like that. Cleaning your room, doing your laundry as soon as you get home from the gym, not leaving it to pile up. I just think it's all tiny 1% which go to building that self-confidence, that image of yourself. I'm somebody who doesn't fuck around and get stuff done. I'm competent, I can take care of myself, and because that's it really, innit? We're all essentially just big kids now, and like trying to fend for ourselves and work out where we fit into the world. And like little things like doing your own washing and cooking for yourself and being like dependent upon yourself, that just gives you more self confidence and more belief in yourself. It's like, okay, I can take care of myself. I am a capable man.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So it
Yeah, yeah,
sounds stupid, but I think there's a lot you can get a lot from doing stuff like that.
yeah. And that like big kids thing is so like I've been thinking about that so much lately. Of like, I just started a new job, so I do this, and but I have to work a job, unfortunately at the moment. And I was in there, and I was like, I work in a kitchen, right? So I was talking to the head chef, lovely guy, but a younger version of myself would have been like, oh my god, he's a head chef, and I'd have just put him up on this pedestal and been like, oh my god, he's a godly human, you
Yeah.
know. And as you get older, you start to realize that it's just a person, you know. And it's the same with, I think training's a big part of that as well, where like you end up in rooms with certain people who, when you're younger, you'd be like, oh my god, it's that guy, but then you're like, oh, it's just a human, you know, and
Yeah.
like you're not. I don't know. I think it's. I don't really know where my point was going with that,
I
but
get I get what you mean because I've done that as well, where you kind of not give people too much respect, but you think that for some reason they've got it figured out and you've not. You're still trying to, but we're all trying to figure it out. We're all just big kids trying to fend for ourselves with doing the best with what we've learned in our years. Do you know what I mean? And some people are more capable and competent than others, but that's only through experience and working hard and putting themselves out there, getting out of the comfort zone. They become more competent in areas. So then you're like, okay, maybe he has got it figured out a bit more, but not because he's special or because he's like some sort of different thing to you. It's the exact same. He's just got more life experience. So that's what it comes down to, I think.
yeah. All right, I want to move into talking a little bit about your career specifically now. Then, how are you feeling about your Cage Warriors return? Obviously, we spoke a bit about like you're not letting being cut from the UFC sort of define who you are and that. But like, how do you feel about returning to Cage Warriors?
I'm actually really excited. Like really excited. I think I had a great first run on Cage Warriors. I never got to fight for the title, which is something that was on my career goal list that I used to set for myself. That was always a big one, like a big milestone was to win the Cage Warriors belt before moving on to the UFC. And I just see this as an opportunity to go back and tick that off before I do eventually get re-signed. I'm excited to fight at home in front of all my friends and family. I fought in London last year, but it's still not the same as fighting up north in Manchester. I'll get a lot more supporters. And yeah, I'm just excited to build momentum again, build my confidence, get back to that sort of, like I said before, how important momentum is. And I feel like going into the UFC, I had a bit of a weird ride with the Ultimate Fighter. I got injured on the, I don't know if you know the story, but I got injured on the show and I actually broke my leg in the first round of my fight. Lost the
Wow.
decision on the show, and then like 6 months later, probably still with a broken leg, but we didn't tell the UFC that. I ended up fighting on the finals because they invited me back. Sometimes they invite somebody else
Yeah.
back. I got a finish in the final, so nothing was guaranteed at that stage. But because I finished my opponent, um, they give me a contract. So I got signed off essentially a one fight win streak with still. I wasn't quite sure how my leg was going to be, so I actually fought that fight southpaw because it was my left leg. So I thought I'm not getting kicked. I'm going to put my right leg forward. I've never fought southpaw before. Um, Done that, and then obviously the year after was the Kalen fight, and then Rinya Nakamura, where I ended up getting stopped. So I feel like the whole time I was in the UFC, I wasn't really riding this wave of confidence and momentum that a lot of other prospects have coming into the promotion. I was kind of like, oh, here's this opportunity, take this fight last minute. Somehow won with a gammy leg, I don't know, but I made it happen. I made it work. And then it's like, right, okay, now get over that imposter syndrome, get over all this. Like you're on the biggest stage now, and I just had to kind of like trick myself into having that confidence. Um, I think I did an all right job, but obviously it didn't quite pan out. So now I've got another opportunity to, because that's what I'm seeing it as an opportunity
Mm.
to. I'm still young. I've just turned 28. I can go on a tear this year, get 3, 4 fights out within 18 months. I think even before I'm 30, I'll be back in the UFC with more experience, more momentum, and I'll have been there now. I've already done a stint, so I know what to expect. Um, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm not even looking at that. I'm looking at the next stage in front, which is a few Cage Warriors fights. I'm very excited to go back to the promotion.
Did you feel a bit of imposter syndrome when you got to the UFC?
Yeah, it comes and goes like different days. I felt different. Some days I felt like I was the man. Some days I didn't, and
Mm.
that's definitely a part of it, though. Yeah, I think more so with when I got matched with Rinya because of like his accolades of the again. This is stupid, but wrestling world champion, like prospect. I felt like the odds makers were favouring him, so I was a bit like, oh, am I am I a bit out of my depth here? Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not a favourite. Maybe I can't beat this guy. And that was probably the fight where I experienced the most imposter syndrome. Um, but then, I would say I did a little bit.
Yeah, I think I heard Jordan Vucenic talk about. I think it was the fight in London last year where he was talking about this. How he wasn't putting the guys in the UFC up on a pedestal anymore. He was like, "No, I deserve to be here." And I can imagine, like, I don't know, does it feel like a big jump? Like, I guess two parts to that question. Does it feel like a big jump, like mentally, and then when you're actually in there, do you feel a big jump as well, like the mental side of it, and then the actual reality side of it?
So I would say reality-wise, it's hard for me to say because the first fight, well, I fought a guy. The Gigamantis fight was a crazy one when I got into the UFC. That was at featherweight. I was fighting Southpaw. I kind of just went in and had the scrap, and I ended up submitting the guy. So that I don't really take too much away from that fight, other than mentally, I'm pretty unbreakable because I had a gammy leg. I had like 2 staph infections that camp. The fight actually got cancelled the first time round on the Ultimate Fighter final because of my staph infection, and then it got rescheduled for 2 weeks later. I'd finished the antibiotics at that time, but it was like there was a lot of things going wrong in that camp, and I'd only just come back to training about 6 weeks before from having months off due to a broken leg. So that was like a very weird scenario. Made it work, got the win, got a finish. I was like, okay, made up. Then I fought Kalen, and I feel like I underperformed, but I still think skill-wise, I think skill for skill, I showed I was a better fighter because when we come out the cage, he'd held me down for maybe 10 minutes of the fight. I'd cut him, hurt his leg, but landed the more significant strikes, put him in a more threatening position, took his back. So I felt skill-wise, I showed what I was capable of, but I just wasn't urgent enough. I didn't feel a big skill jump. And then, in terms of the Nakamura fight, probably mentally more so. I was like, oh, this guy's really good. And obviously I wasn't really on great momentum. I'd had a weird fight with Kalen, which didn't go my way. I felt I'd underperformed. The Gigamantis fight was a weird one in itself anyway, because it was kind of just last minute, sporadic. And then it had been years before I'd been on this run of like back-to-back wins. So then mentally, yeah, I was probably a little bit compromised going into that fight. And then what's frustrating is it looks like, oh, he's this world beater now. He stopped me in the first round with a kick, but that could have been anyone. And I'm not taking anything away from him. It was a great technique, but I threw a shot. He caught me in the perfect spot, and it shut me down. And that was the fight. There was no even like play out. We didn't really get to see my skills against his because he caught me with the perfect shot, and then that was it. Then so I feel like I didn't quite get the opportunity to fully test my skills against the best guys in the world whilst I was in the UFC because I fought Kalen, who I think I am better than. But it was still a weird fight. And then Rinya was like over before it even started. So in terms of skill level, I didn't get to notice. Although I will say, and it's different sparring, but I've sparred with a lot of UFC guys in Syndicate, and I've sparred with guys on the Ultimate Fighter who are in the UFC, and I don't think it is as big of a step up as what people convince themselves it is. I think when you're fighting good guys on the regional scene, like I did, I fought a lot of Cage Warriors champions, Michelle Martignoni. I fought Alessandro Giordano, who fought for the belt. I fought Dan Dice, who was like 8-1 at the time, submitting loads of people. So when you fought good regional scene guys, I don't think there's too much difference skill-wise when you get into the UFC. It's just the mental pressure that you put on yourself what changes it.
Yeah, I guess like that's always the thing that stands out. Like people like John Jones, for example, I don't really like the guy. I've never met him, but I don't think he's a great dude. But he just seems so mentally like you can't fucking touch him mentally, you know. And I think that is, again, I'm not talking from a place of personal experience here, but I'd imagine that has to play such a huge role in how well you do when you actually go to compete. Because if you're thinking like, oh, like there's maybe a chance that this could go wrong, I guarantee you John Jones isn't thinking that.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, it's back to the story you tell yourself. But then, so I think there's ways in which you can do the work to tell yourself a better story, like having momentum, having wins behind you, having a good streak. Nothing builds confidence like that. And that, remember when I was saying the best I'd ever felt was the Dominic Wooden fight? At the time, I was 23, 6-0, 6 finishes. I'd won my last few amateur fights, so I was on like a 9-fight win streak. No wonder I felt the best I'd ever felt. I thought no man alive could beat me. I was like, my shit don't stink. Do you know what I mean? I'm fucking untouchable. And then as you go through MMA, losses teach you a lot, but also it kind of takes away from that unbeatable mindset. So you've got to do the work mentally to give yourself that undeniable, unbeatable mindset, but also be aware, okay, this is where I made mistakes, so I need to improve my skills in this area. But mentally, I've got to try and keep that same unbreakable mindset, which is obviously a lot more difficult to do when you have had losses. When you've never been beat, you know no different. Do you know what I mean? So it's like important. It's even more important having faced losses. You can losses can be a great thing if you take the technical work that needs to be done from them, but also do the mental work to be like, okay, I'm gonna be rid of that. I'm gonna tell myself the story of this is why I lost. I've improved on it. I'm not gonna lose again. Versus this is why I lost. I'm not good enough. I'm gonna get beat again. Do you get me?
Yeah, I mean, they can either be like a cheat code or just something that completely ruins you, right? And I think, I don't know, like loss doesn't just have to be in a competitive like martial arts sense. It can be anything, like a failed business, or you fucked up making a cake at home. You know, like it teaches you how to not do that again, or it can either fucking ruin you. And I think that, I don't know, like it's too many people let it just completely fuck with their head when it's like, okay, like just look at it in a slightly different perspective. You know, maybe you needed that for a reason.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so you were mentioning you don't have a set opponent yet, but can you share a little bit about where you're seeing your career go in the next 2, 3, 4 months, and then where you want it to go in the next 12, 18 months?
So immediately, I want to get out in Manchester in 2 weeks, just under 2 weeks now. Cage Warriors have got a card. That's where they are matching me for. Hopefully, in a couple of days, I'll have something locked in. So that's first protocol activity straight away. I only found out a couple of weeks ago that I was released by the UFC. They kept me waiting on a string, dangling a carrot in front of me, thinking I was going to get matched. And then, as soon as I found out I'd been released, I was like, right, what's the next card? And there was Cage Warriors Dublin just gone, but that was a little bit too soon. So I was like, Manchester, it's close to home. Let's get out straight away, show them that I'm urgent and I want to get back. So we're going to smash whoever signs on the dotted line in 2 weeks. I'm very ready, I'm light, I'm sharp, I've been sparring, I've been staying in shape thinking I was going to get the UFC call. So I'm ready to go now. And then the plan is as active as possible. I'm not going to be getting out of shape. I'm treating this run now with urgency. Like I want to be as active as possible. I want to show the UFC I'm ready to fight. I can make weight all the time. I'm ready to go. I'm going to stay in shape. So we've got March. Then I don't know what shows Cage Warriors have got planned after, but sort of April, May, June would be a nice another date to get back out. And then September, again, just after summer, would be another great date. We're 3-0 at this point. If the UFC aren't coming back yet, we'll fight again in December, maybe for a title on Cage Warriors. Be undeniable. Get out as much as possible. And I'm looking at it as 12 to 18 months, getting myself back in the UFC.
Hey, well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Nathan. Before we finish, is there anything that you want to shout out or promote or anything at all?
So I want to say a few shout outs. Reprimo, first of all, my main sponsor, taking care of me, sorting me out with all the best grip. And so very grateful to Reprimo for backing my career and standing by me. The messages I've had off them since the departure of the UFC have meant a lot because it's shown, a lot of the time big companies can cut ties with guys when they're not on the highest level anymore, but they have assured me they're behind me and backing my career, so that means a lot. I've had a couple of new sponsors for this next date. So we've got, I don't want to butcher this, it's JCL Heating. That's really bad. I need to look that one up again. But a guy called Chris reached out to me, JLC Heating, JCL. Anyway, and then I've got the Vault Gym also jumped on board, sponsored me for this camp, and Hope Capital, Jonathan Seeley, my good mate. So they're 3 new sponsors that have jumped on. I'm very grateful to have them backing me because again, it's like I'm not necessarily hot stocks at the minute. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So for people to still support me now in this stage, that means the world to me. So I'm very grateful to them. And just everyone who's going to buy a ticket, all my friends and family, all my supporters, you all know who you are. Very grateful. We're going to have a great night in Manchester in 2 weeks. Hopefully someone signs soon and we can go and get my hand raised again. So I'm excited for that.
Nice, man. Nice. Well, thank you again for coming on the show, Nathan.
My pleasure, mate. Thank you very much for having me